Oracle utilities. So basically, these utilities, there are several utilities in Oracle. So basically, these utilities are going to help in order to allow you to transfer the data between multiple, databases. And okay, is my voice audible to everyone? I hope there is an issue with some here. Just a minute. Okay, so these Oracle utilities, as I said, are basically used to transfer the data between multiple Oracle databases. And under that, the first utility that we are going to see is SQL Loader. So SQL Loader is basically a utility to transfer the data from a text file to a Oracle table. So that is what you can see in the first point. Also, it is mentioned. So sometimes what happens is usually the data will be given in the form of a text file, like in a notepad or something like that. Let me show you that. So for example, so like this. So data was given in the format like this, and you want to load this data into some table. So in this kind of situations, or it need not be necessary the data should be there in the notepad. It can be there in the Word, or it can be there in the Excel sheet, or it can be there in any other format where the text data is represented. So if the data has been given like that, and you want to load this data from this particular notepad or Excel sheet to Oracle table, then we are going to use this concept called SQL loader. And usually the text file whatever you saw, this text file will be called as flat file. So I mean, that is Oracle SQL loader terminology. And when you look at the diagram below, so this is the diagram, and this diagram actually represents how the SQL loader will work and all. So the first thing is SQL loader is basically having two inputs. You can see these two files. So one is called in file or input file. So in file or input file is nothing but the same like text file or the flat file. So where the actual data is stored, that file we call it as in file or input file. And how the data will be loaded into Oracle table. So we will be specifying some parameters, and that we would be writing into another file which we call it as control file. So control file of SQL loader doesn't have any relationship with the control file of the database. I mean, whatever the control file we saw at database level, it's completely different from the control file what we have in SQL loader. So these are the two basic input files that we have, and then we have four output files. Like we have add file, we have discard file, then etc. etc. So that's basically what we have here. Now when you load the data from the in file or input file to Oracle table, so data loading into table, here whatever is highlighted, this is the first output. Then you can track this entire activity with the help of a log file, and that file we usually call it as SQL loader log file. And sometimes what happens is due to some reasons the data may not get loaded into the database. For example, if there is any data type mismatch, or if there is any data type length mismatch and all. So in such cases, the rows will not be loaded from the infile to the Oracle table. In such situations, whatever the rows which are not inserted, those will be placed into bad file. And one more advantage what Oracle gives us is, suppose for example, in this particular data, you want to insert a particular row or you want to insert some specific rows, you can write a where condition. Like how we would be generally writing a where condition, something like where department number equals to 10 or where department number equals to 20, etc. So you can write a similar where condition while loading the data. And suppose you have written a where condition on department number equals to 10. So apart from department number 10, all other rows will be skipped from insertion, and those kind of skipped rows or avoided rows. So those will be placed into a file called discard file. So you know the meaning of discarding. So wantedly you want to skip them. So whatever the rows that you were skipping, those skipped rows will come and sit into this particular file. So these are the four outputs of SQL loader that we have, and the point number 3 is explaining all those things. You know what is which file, etc., etc. So is this points clear? If anybody is having any queries, please let me know. So now let us go and take one example on how we can load this data and all. So for example, this is my in file where I have some data and I want to load this data into EMP table. So one thing that we need to have very important note is, whenever you want to load the data from a file to Oracle table, then the columns whatever you have in the text file and the columns whatever you have in the table, so both should match to each other. So what I mean to say is, so for example, you can see the column order here. The first one is EMP number, second one is name, then job, then manager, then hire date, etc. So even in the file from which you want to load the data, here also it should be in the same way. Like you need to have first EMP number, then you need to have name, then you need to have the job, then manager, hire date, etc., etc. Okay. So suppose if any row is there which is not matching this criteria or which is not matching this particular order, then it is going to fail. For example, in our case, this row should fail. Why? Because here first employee name is not there, first employee name is there. So So that's the reason it is going to fail for insertion. So this is one important point that we need to remember. So the order whatever is having in the Oracle table, so the same column order should be there of the the file from which you are doing the insertion. So what I am going to do first here is, So I am creating one file here, emp underscore insert dot lst. So whatever the data I have here, I'm just copying into that new file. So I'm just creating a text file here and I'm saving it. And then we need to write down the things for control file. So how we would be having the control file script is like this. So the first line says load the data, and the second line is going to specify where the in file is, means what is the name of in file, and third line is going to specify into which table that you want to insert the data, and fourth line is going to specify how the values are separated between columns. So here if you look at, this is my first column, employee number, and this is my second column, employee name. And now how this employee number and employee name are separated? With the help of a comma. Like this, each and every column is separated by a comma. So that is what we are going to write down here. Fields terminated by comma. In single words we need to mention it, and we need to also mention what are all the columns that we want to insert the data. So basically we are going to write down these 4 or 5 lines. So what we do is we will open one more file, control, and we will be inserting that one here, and then save this. And now you can run SQL loader with the help of this command, SQL loader user ID is equals to Scott Tiger. Then you need to mention what is the name of control file. So maybe I am just giving control. Then I need to mention a log file name. So the same syntax, whatever is there here. So log file, I am taking it as emp underscore log. Okay, sorry. I'm just the control file name is expected to be .ctl, so I'm just renaming it. Okay. So now you can see what it is saying. If you want to insert the data, then the table must be empty. So first of all, your table must be empty if you want to insert the data. No, because of this we can't delete the earlier data. So what we can do is, here instead of load data we can put down something called append data. So here instead of load we can write append. So that will also work. But what I will do in this case is I will just create another table just like emp. So let's say create table Scott dot test as selection Scott dot emp where 1 equals to 2. So this command create table as select star from where 1 equals to 2. This will create the table with no rows. So it will just create the structure, and in control file here I will do the change. I will say insert into table test instead of emp. And now I will run the command of SQL loader. So now you can see it says commit point reached and logical record count is 9. So that means SQL loader loading is completed, and if you open the log file, then you will understand what actually happened. So here if you look at, So record number 9 is rejected. So why it got rejected? Because of a error like invalid number. So now if you see 8 rows successfully loaded, 1 row is not loaded. So ninth row it failed, and that is what we expected also. So if you look at here, these all rows are matching the criteria that the same column order is there, but the last row is having a different column order. We have employee name first, then employee number. So that is the reason we expected to be failed and it got failed. And if it is failed, it is going to give you that information in the log file. So you can see here, total number of rows that are read is 9, but out of them 1 got rejected, so only 8 got loaded into the database. And it is also giving you at what time you ran this SQL loader and what time it got completed. So you would be getting that elapsed time also. So this is how you can make use of this SQL loader in order to load the data into a table. So anybody is having any queries? So let us move into the next utility. So the next utility we have is export import. So frankly, this one is one of the very widely used, not very widely used, or say, or very frequently used concept in real time. So almost twice in a week or thrice in a week, or sometimes in some projects daily you would be doing this export import. So basically export import is nothing but transferring the data between Oracle databases, and this whenever you want to move one table from one database to another database, or you want to move entire schema from one database to another database, or you want to or you want to transfer certain rows. So in all these kind of situations, this is going to help you. So we have different levels in export import. As we discussed, the first one is database level. That means if you have a database and you want to transfer this entire data into another database, so you can use database level export import. And if you want only schema, then you will be going for schema level export import. And if you want to go for only one table, you can go with one table export import. And you want to go for a row level, you can go with one row, multiple rows export import. So we have different levels here. And the third point says, apart from the database level, we can perform the other levels of export import within the same database. So, schema level, table level, and row level, you can do it within the same database also. Suppose you have a schema called X in the database and you want to create a similar schema called Y in the same database. Then what you can do is take the export of X, then create Y, and then you can import into Y. So like the same way you want to create one duplicate table. So you can take export of one table, create, do a import, and you can automatically get a duplication. So actually this is what we can do. And the fourth point is exactly not relevant at this moment. So it is just explaining how the things will work. So let me show you how this export at different levels is going to work. So we would be using the command, or the syntax will be like this: exp, then file equals to, you need to provide the file name. And generally, if you are depends on the type of export you are using and all, you would be actually working on that. Just a minute. Okay. So what we would be doing is, whenever you are going for full database export, first you would be saying full, then underscore database name, then underscore, you can give today's date. So, and if any other DBA also look into this particular file name, they can easily understand that this is the full database export which was taken on 6th August 2013. So this is just to have other DBAs, understand about what you have done and at what time you have done that. And this naming convention is not mandatory. The file should have only this name or that name. It is not mandatory, but it is just like that what we follow in real time usually. So what we are doing is, with the help of this option file equals to, we are going to specify the name of the file, and usually this file we call it as dump file, DUMP. So what this dump file basically contains is whatever the data that you want to export. So you will be collecting that and you will be putting that into this particular file. And log file is to track the entire activity. So just a while ago we have created one log file for SQL loader. So in a similar way, for tracking this entire export event, you would be using this log file. And if you want to go for full database export, then you would be using this clause full equals to y. So when you say full equals to y, it's like you are going to take full database export. So, and when you hit enter button, it is going to ask you about username. Just give slash as sysdb, and this will start your full database export. So when I say full database, it includes everything like the users, table spaces, then the roles, synonyms, sequences, everything. So that is where you can see all those things here. So when you run this, you would be getting a warning. So I just want to show you that. Oops, sorry. Just give me a moment. So actually when you run that command, you would be getting a warning. Let me show you what that warning is. Okay, so this is the warning that you would be getting out. So actually this is a bug in Oracle export utility. So, and especially in 10G. So you would be observing this warning. So this warning actually doesn't do any harm, but still it is going to repeat in multiple lines like this. So which actually doesn't look good. So to avoid this warning, we need to put down some option while writing our export command itself. So I will show you what is that. in this command itself you are going to write down something called statistics equals to none. So if you write down this particular or if you add this particular clause to your export command, then whatever the warning that you have seen, that warning will be overwritten. So even that is the same that was given as the note in your class notes. So you can see here, to avoid questionable statistics warning, use statistics equals to none during export. And now if you say sysdba, so now you can see that warning is not being displayed on the screen and the export is happening continuously. So basically export is nothing but, as you can see, it is taking the export of each and every table, how many rows are there in each and every table, and the other objects like views, synonyms, etc., etc. So that's how the export got completed, the full database export. Now when you run this export command, what basically happens in the background? So we need to understand about that. And if you look at fifth point, it says export will basically convert the statements into select commands, and you know already how a select statement will process, and the final output will be written to the dump file. That means below you can see a line with arrow marks. So first, basically when you run exp command, that will be converted into select statement, and you know how the select statement will process. It will go to data files to pick the data, then it will copy the data to buffer cache, and from buffer cache it is going to write down into dump file. So basically export is nothing but a select statement processing. And who would be writing this data into dump file? So it will be done by the server process. So that is the main responsibility of server process during export. And now let us go and look into the other modes of export. So whatever we saw is full database export. Now if you want to go for a single schema, then you would be using command like this. Suppose I want to take only squad schema under .dv on 6th August. So I would be giving dump file name like that, and log file also similarly we will be giving that, but the extension we give it as .log, and we say owner equals to Scott. In single quote we need to mention that. So same slash as sysdva. Of course, because I have not used that statistics equals to none, you got this warning again. So it is better to use it, but ultimately you can see it has written all the tables whatever it is having. So similarly, if you want to go for a table level, for example, I want to take only EMP table, then I say so we need to say tables equals to Scott dot EMP, and if you want to avoid that, you can mention statistics equals to none. So So now you can see only one table got exported out of the score schema. So this is how you would be doing it at table level. And then if you want a row level, then you would be using like this. For example, out of EMP table, I want only the rows belonging to department number 10. Then I say EMP DPT 10 6 August 13.dmp log. So tables equals to spot.emp. Then we need to use another option called query equals to. So and we need to write down where DPT number equals to 10. Sorry, DPT number equals to 10. And again, if you want to avoid that warning, you need to say statistics equals to none. And now if you look at out of EMP table, only 3 rows got exported because 3 rows belonging to department number 10. So this is how basically the 4 levels, DB level, schema level, table level and row level export is being performed. So anybody is having any queries before we proceed further? Okay, so these dump files will be stored from the location where you are taking export. So for example, in my case, I ran the export from here itself. So whatever the present working directory, there itself all your dump files will be stored. So suppose you want to store them in a specific location, then in the command itself you can write something like this. So for example, you want your dump files to be stored in U02, then you can write down like this, U02 slash. Then the dump files or the log files will be created in that location. Is that clear, Samir? So any more questions before we proceed further? Okay, fine. So let us go with the next thing. So in export, what we saw is for full database we used something called full equals to y, and for schema level we use something called owner equals to the schema name. Then for table level we use something called tables equals to whatever the owner name dot table name. And for row level we used query equals to we have written some query over there. So just like that, there are some other options that are there with the exp. So if you want to list down all those options, you need to use the command exp help equals to y. So this is going to list you all the options. Maybe we don't use all the options in real time, so I will just explain about what are all the options we use in real time and what is their benefit. So if you write down exp help equals to y, you will be getting this total list of all the options that you have. So the first one starting with is user ID. So user ID is nothing but the username and the password that you want to give. So you have seen already, after executing every command it will ask you for username and password. So that is one option. And full equals to y, we saw that option already, like it is going to help you in order to take full database export. And one more thing is, whenever you are looking into these options, in the bracket there are some values mentioned here. You can see y or s. So y means yes, n means no, and whatever you see in the brackets is the default value. That means by default Oracle will not take full database export until unless you specify that I want full export. Oracle will not take full export by default. So user ID is nothing but providing the username and password. Full equals to y means you want to take full database export, and then we have buffer. So buffer is nothing but or this is a parameter which will actually speed up the export process. So actually there is a formula to calculate the buffer size. So the formula says buffer should be equals to 10 into average row length. So you can see the 7th point here. It says the export will actually be taken in the form of the size of the block. That means every time Oracle will read only 8 KB from the dump file. So if keep on 8 KB, 8 KB and is getting read out, then it would be a problem. So to increase the speed of the export, we have this parameter called buffer, which is set to 10 into average row length. So even though we have that formula, generally in real time we don't go by that formula, and we would be using some values like 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, etc. So anything above 5 lakhs. So you can make use of that particular value. So you need to mention, after writing exp command and all the other stuff, you need to say buffer equals to 5 lakhs. So this means that you want to read 50 MB at a time. So by reading 50 MB at a time, the process of export will be faster basically. So to speed up the export process, you are using this parameter buffer. Then we have owner. So already we saw that in case of schema level export, you would be using this. And then we have file. So file is nothing but you are going to provide the file name. Then tables. If at all you want to go for table level export, you would be using it. And then we have compress. So I will explain about compress during import. At that time you will understand it more. Then we don't use record length in real time, so I'm just skipping that. And then grants. So grants are nothing but privileges, you know that. So if at all any privileges are there on a table or in a schema, automatically even those privileges will be exported during EXP. And the INC type we don't use in real time, so I'm skipping that one also. Then we have indexes. So that means by default whenever you take export, even indexes also will be exported. You can see Y here. So by default it is Y. That means whenever you take export of EMP table, if any index is there on EMP table, even that index also will be exported automatically. And the record also we don't use in real time, so just forget about it. Then we have very important parameter direct path. So by default it is no, but you can if you say direct equals to y, then it is going to speed up the export process. So just have a look at the eighth point here. So this says x direct equals to y will make the export process faster by performing in the following way. Normally how the export process will work, you can see here. Exp will be converted into select statement, then it will be it is going to read the data from the data files, then it will copy them to buffer cache, and from buffer cache it will be read into dump. That means data files to DBC, database buffer cache is a IO, because you are reading from disk to memory, and from buffer cache you are again writing to dump file. That means again from memory to disk is another IO. So basically in select statement processing there is a IO involved if you use database buffer caching. But with the help of direct equals to y, what you are doing here is select statement will directly go to data files, and from data files it will copy the data to dump file directly. So basically here you are not using buffer cache, that means you are not at all touching the memory portion, and if you don't touch memory portion, then it means you are avoiding the IO, and as we know already, when we avoid IO, the process will speed up. So that is what basically will happen with direct equals to y. But you can't use direct equals to y in all cases. There are only some there are some restrictions on direct equals to y. For example, you can see the ninth point over here. You can't use direct equals to y if your table is having a long data type, or if your table is having LOB data type, or if your table is a cluster table, or if your table is a partition table. You can't make use of this direct equals to y option. So what is cluster table and what is partition table, we will be discussing more in performance tuning. And we have a note below that, so which says when we give direct equals to y option, and if Oracle cannot take export of a table with that, then automatically Oracle will switch into the conventional path. Conventional path means using database buffer cache. So for example, let me show you here. So when I say that equals to y, so you will be observing that some tables, if Oracle can't take or can't make use of direct equals to y, automatically it will switch into the conventional path. So let this export complete, then I will show you that. So here you can see the message. It says table so and so will be exported in conventional path. So why it is being exported in conventional path? That is maybe because of these four situations. So might be the table contains long data type or LOB data type, or that could be a cluster table or partition table. So that's the reason you are having, that's the reason why Oracle has shifted automatically from direct path to the conventional path. So this is one advantage that we have. If export is not satisfied with the direct path, automatically Oracle will take care of the conventional path. So that is one advantage we have. And by default triggers also will be exported if at all you have created any triggers and all. And log is nothing but the record what you are maintaining. So just now we saw it. and statistics equals to none. That is what we are using in order to avoid that bug. Then more about statistics we will be learning in performance tuning, so you need to wait just till that time. Then we have rows. So if at all you want to take export of the table including rows, then you would be using rows equals to y. So by default it is y. So that's the reason if you take export of a table, even the rows will be exported. And then we have par file. So par file is something like a list of all the options you can combine or you can keep track in a single file. For example, I am creating one par file here. So just have a look. So I am saying vi1.par, and this is a new file. You can see at the bottom here. So in this file, what I will do is I will write down something like this. Then let's say file equals to y, direct equals to y, local equals to. So for example, I have issued all these options, and for suppose daily I want to use these many options, then usually it happens that you may forgot one or other option on a particular day. So what you can do is you can save all these options in this file one.bar, and you can execute your command like this. So simply you can write exp par file equals to the name of the par file one.par. That automatically you can see export will start, because in the export itself I have in the par file itself I have mentioned all the options whatever I want. So this is the advantage of par file. Just cancelling it. And then we have consistent. So consistent is by default no, and you need to better declare it as yes. Now what exactly is this mean by consistent? Suppose you are taking export of one table and assume on the same table some update statement or insert or delete is being executed. Then what happens is whatever the data you are taking will not be a consistent data, because when you are reading the data and some rows are getting updated, whatever the rows that you read and whatever the rows that are modified will have completely different set of values. So the data will not be consistent, and you want a consistent data, then what you can do is you can mention this option consistent equals to y. So when you mention consistent equals to y, then what Oracle will do is, if a DM operation is being performed on a table on which you are taking export, then Oracle will take the values from the undo table space, and the undo table space will contain the old data, that. So for that table, whatever the old data is there, so that data will be picked up by this export command. So when you specify consistent equals to y. So basically you are maintaining a consistency, like either you are taking completely new data or you are going to take complete old data. So when some DML transaction is being performed, then it is better to take completely old data, and for that reason Oracle will go to undo table space. And then you have constraints option. So it's nothing but even the constraints like primary key, foreign key, etc. will be exported when you take the export of a table and all. And the rest of the options we don't use them in real time except the query. So query means you want to go for a row level export, that we saw it already. So except that we don't use any other options in real time. So anybody is having any queries? Constraints is nothing but when you are taking export and of a table, and on that table you have constraints like primary key, foreign key, then not null constraints and all. So even those constraints also will be exported automatically. So any other queries we have? Okay, fine. So let us stop here for today, and tomorrow we will be discussing about import, how to do import into another database. So we will be doing that, and then we will be discussing about data pump and all other topics. And one request for you guys is, this export import, as I said in the beginning itself, almost in some projects you would be doing it daily, and in some other projects you may do it twice a week or thrice a week. So it's very important that you need to have hands on all the options. So what I request you is, whatever the options we discussed, like consistent equals to y, constraints, indexes, etc. So keep on practicing with options and without options. So that's, I mean, if you practice direct equals to y once, practice direct equals to no also once. And if you mention indexes equals to y first time, and mention indexes equals to no as second time. So like this practice, with and without options, that is going to help you a lot actually. So this is very important for practice. So please don't ignore it. So we will see tomorrow on the other part on how to do the importing to another database and all. So thank you everyone for joining the call, and let us meet tomorrow at the same time, and have a nice time till then.